can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
How are we doing out there tonight all across this great land of ours and around the world? It is that time for the Conservative Syndicate coming to you live right now. As I said, coast to coast and around the world. I'm your host, John Matthews, and along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Troyer Report, we do what we do best on this show, and that is to educate, inform, and engage you, our listening audience, on the fallacies of liberalism and the greatness of conservatism. And I am flying solo today. Joe is not with us today. He is on his way, if he has not already arrived, to a Donald Trump rally out there in Pensacola, Florida. Joe lives out there in the Panhandle. I live out here in the left coast, out here just a little bit north of Disneyland. So we have it covered from coast to coast. But he's out at a Donald Trump rally today. And he'll be giving us a report when he comes on the show or returns tomorrow. In the meantime, we got a lot of stuff for you. Let me line up what we got going on here during the rest of the week. Tomorrow, I am going to have one of our conservative panel members, Russ Neal. Now, Russ is a part of our panel here, but he is not what you call a regular panel member. He is kind of like when I can get my hands on him. Very busy man, runs an electrical engineering consulting service. He worked for Southern California Edison for, I know, well over 2 decades, and retired last year, opened up a consulting business, and so he's constantly traveling around. And so I grab him when I can. But the reason I'm bringing him on tomorrow is because one of the things that I know Russ to be very active in, and that is the anti-abortion movement. He was at one time a chapter member of Operation Rescue out here in California. Some of you remember what they were about. And he currently serves on the board of the Center for Bioethical Reform, which is another very proactive anti-abortion group. And the reason I asked him to come on, because this weekend, this Sunday, January 17th, is the annual Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. This is a day of recognition that began back in 1984 when President Ronald Reagan issued a proclamation designating the third, or not the third Sunday, but he in that time designated January 22nd as the National Sanctity of Human Life Day. And that was the day that the U.S. Supreme Court had legalized abortion on demand in all 50 states. So Ronald Reagan countered that by setting aside a day and recognizing it as the Sanctity of Life Sunday. And this year it's scheduled for this Sunday, January 17th. So I thought I would have Russ come on, and we're going to talk some about abortion, about Planned Parenthood, what's going on with that. The spin of Planned Parenthood is just tremendous. And now that this year, I guess, in fact, that's one of the things we'll talk about tomorrow. I dug up some information on Planned Parenthood, who just in the last couple of days endorsed Hillary Clinton. And that kind of rang a bell with me. And I'm like, what is a nonprofit doing endorsing a presidential candidate? I thought that was against the law. I thought that was something that if somebody else does something like that, receiving government money and then endorsing a candidate, I thought that's what the whole 501c regulations were set up to stop. And what we find out is that they have found a way around it. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, along with just the spin, just the narrative of abortion in America. And so we'll have Russ and Neil on tomorrow. Today, what we're going to do, of course, we're going to talk about the State of the Union message. And some things in there, there's not a whole lot to say about it. We talked about, it was pretty much fulfilled all our expectations or our lack of expectations, depending on how you look at things. But a couple of things worth noting. And in addition to that, the Republican Party's response to the State of the Union message. That's another thing that we're going to talk about today. And then after our first break here, we are going to have, as a guest, Jordan Page. I don't know if you know who he is. He's an American recording artist. He performs a mixture of rock and folk music, and has been very involved in political movement starting back in 2008 with the Ron Paul campaign. I'm gathering, or I'm deducing, that he has some libertarian leanings, and so we're going to talk about that with him. But I thought I would have him come on. He just released a new album, or a new song that has just come out called Arm Yourselves, and he was referred to me by one of our networks, and so I contacted his PR people, and we set up an interview with him. It'd be an interesting interview. We're going to talk about politics, perhaps, I guess, a little bit from the libertarian side. And so we got that going on. And then, of course, if you haven't heard, even more news today regarding Hillary Clinton's email problems. It turns out that there are thousands of unreleased or unreviewed emails that have surfaced in the last day or so from other employees that she had working for her when she was the head of the department. Secretary of State, as her tenure as Secretary of State. And a lot of these emails deal specifically with Benghazi. So there's all kinds of fervor out there now, more rumblings across the political spectrum as to what this could mean. Apparently, the State Department found these things. I don't know if they found them by accident or finally started looking for them or whatever, but there's thousands of them. And now you tie that on with the addition of 29,000 pages of emails that are supposed to be released by her one of her chief of staff or one of her staff people, main staff people, Human Abedin. This is shaping up to be something that could really, really do some hurt to Hillary Clinton's campaign, and that would throw the entire Democrat Party into much more disarray than they already are. So we're going to try to tackle these topics today, and we'll see what's happening. Now, I will say this at the outset. I would never deny that I am a very biased person when we talk about the left. As a whole, I despise what they stand for, and Obama in particular. And my take on the State of the Union message yesterday was it just visually, I'm just talking about the visual aspects of it. It was strange in some regard because the whole atmosphere seemed rather somber. And what I noticed was, or what I detected, or what I surmised, like I said, I am biased, so this just might be my bias playing into things, but it seemed like Obama during his speech was trying more to convince himself he's a success more than anyone else that was listening in the room. As the cameras panned the room, I saw very somber expressions, especially the military representatives. They had a whole front row of military generals there, and I think just somber-looking gentlemen, and just very little response. Even the standing ovations he got every time he said something leftist from the left seemed to be rather practiced and mundane. I watching the faces of some of these people, so it was an interesting visual aspect of it that I really hadn't expected that much. I thought, Nancy Pelosi would be wearing her cheerleading outfit and they'd all be jumping up and down and thrills down the leg and all the other stuff that goes with it. But it seems like just perhaps maybe the Democrats, what I got, the feeling was it was burnout. It was a room full of burned out people not knowing what's going on. Probably most of them sitting there, especially the Senate, wondering if they were going to have a job after an election next year on both sides. And then even Nikki Haley's response was kind of interesting, very representative of the rhino atmosphere that has taken over the GOP establishment. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we got to go to break right now. When we come back, we'll have with us Jordan Page, as I mentioned earlier. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, mad prophet of the airways on a mission from God. And that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We do that here at the Conservative Syndicate by espousing what we refer to as a conservative gospel and exposing the lameness of the leftist agenda. I've got with me right now Jordan Page. You were just listening to a clip from his latest release, Arm Yourselves. I listened to this song today. I immediately fell in love with it just because of the entire, just the rock aspect of it. I love that, I guess the phrase I might use is rockabilly sound, but just very, Toby Keithish, I guess, if I had to pick a word. But I looked at the lyrics of the song. I'm fascinated with this composition here. And we have Jordan Page with us right now here in person. How are you doing tonight, Jordan?
Oh, I'm great, John. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, I'm certainly glad to have you with us. You are the up-and-coming breed of, I think, in a lot of ways, of what conservatism is coming to represent. I did want to ask you at the outset, how old are you? You look about 30-something.
Yes, I'm 36.
36, okay. All right. So you're beyond the age of being trusted, if we go back to the old 60s adage of never trust anybody over 30.
Yes, that is unfortunately the case.
Okay, so I'm like twice your age, so you're
twice as untrustworthy as what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I guess and the more leftist you go, the more untrustworthy I am. That's for sure. And not to mention the fact of how I'm very good at riling up the Christian community in a lot of ways too. So I get in a lot of hot water over that too.
I do too, John. Almost exclusively. I'm always upsetting someone somewhere, but I think that's how we change things and how we provoke people to use critical thinking and to expand our consciousness is to say things that are unpopular but that make some sense and see where it lands with people.
I just personally believe that truth is very seldom popular when you don't want to adhere to its what it says. And that seems to be the environment that we live in today. I wanted to ask you just at the outset. Now, you were very involved with the Ron Paul campaign, starting back as far as 2008. And yes. I personally have a lot of respect for Ron Paul on his fiscal issues. I probably would say I concur with 100% of what he's ever said about the finances and dealing with government, especially the Fed. I would not only love to see the Fed audited, I'd love to see it abolished. But
Amen.
Now, I just want to ask you at the outset,
sure.
Being so dedicated with the Ron Paul campaign, what is your take on his son, Rand?
Well, that is the question on everybody's mind. Rand is his own man, and he has his own set of values. He's very much in line with his father on many things, and he's gone off in another direction on some other things. I've met him several times, and I think he's genuine. I think he's got a strategy that some have criticized, not really pandering to the same crowd that his father was, which was folks like myself. But there's so many things that he's done that I've really loved and supported. And there's been some things I disagreed with too. But everybody has their own strategy for the best way to stem the tide of tyranny. So I mean he's certainly the only candidate that's on the national stage that's worth casting a vote for, in my opinion. The rest of them all just seem to be, vying for the CEO job of murderer in chief. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in maintaining the status quo whatsoever. And I think that a Rand Paul presidency would certainly give the American people more freedoms, not less freedoms. And to me, any other candidate on either side of the line is just going to cost us freedoms instead of give us more.
Well, there was a couple of things about him that just recently, just within this campaign, that have kind of sent up a red flag for me a little bit. When he first came on the scene, when he was running for senator in Kentucky, I jumped on the bandwagon. I listened to this guy, and I'm saying, as you said, the first thing I picked up on him, this is a genuine person. You don't have to necessarily agree with him, but here's a man that really believes what he says. And I grabbed a hold of that. And like I said, at that time he was echoing a lot of Ron's fiscal ideals, especially regarding the Fed and everything. And I'm thinking, this could be the kind of guy we want to rock the boat a little bit. And but he lost me when he endorsed Mitch McConnell for Senate. I just at that point I went, nah, can't back that.
Yeah, he lost a lot of people. He lost a lot of people when he endorsed Mitt Romney during the Texas State Convention. I was actually doing a concert down there in Fort Worth with his father. It was actually my birthday that year, and Ron came to my birthday concert. It was like 900 people came, and he was kind enough to speak, and we got the word that Rand had endorsed Romney at that event. It was sort of like this this massive exhale of disappointment. And I think he was just towing party line to be able to stay in the game, But you have to play games with psychopaths if you plan to be relevant nationally in their arena. I personally I'm opposed to so many aspects of the system itself because it just breeds corruption, and I personally feel that we have one political party with two factions. One is a socialist faction and one's more of a fascist faction. And, Ron Paul was a complete separation from all of that, and, an immaculate career in Congress and consistently standing on principle. And that's what really excited everyone about him. Ron Paul, I always said Ron Paul fans were like Metallica fans. They were ravenous to hear the words that came out of his mouth. It has not necessarily been the same situation this time around with Rand, but he's certainly the best candidate on the stage as far as I can see.
Well, like I said, there are a few things with him that I've just kind of taken exception. One of I guess the thing that sticks out to me the most, and something that we've seen this all along the line. We really saw this in 2008. It just kind of come to the surface. This hateful vitriol between not only just candidates but their supporters, and how we get into these personal things. We're seeing that right now. I mean, obviously, Rand and Trump don't like each other. I doubt there's very few people up there that really like Trump. You can like what he says. I'm one of these people I like what he says. I'm not crazy about the guy as a president, but I like I would make him my press secretary. Right. I think he'd be good at that kind of stuff. But as a leader, I just don't see that. But him and Rand and Donald Trump just seemed to have a special dislike for each other that was very obvious from the outset. And it's now starting to surface with Trump. I don't know which side generated it, or it's not really important, but now I'm seeing it between Trump and Cruz. And I'm a Cruz supporter, and the reason I like Cruz is that he has managed so far to kind of stay above the fray and not really get involved in the personal attacks. I don't know how that's going to, play out now that he's actually on par with Trump, at least in what the polls are saying. And so I don't know how that's going to play out campaign-wise. I don't know if he's going to have to, at some point, tit for tat kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out.
Well, I know he just lost a lot of supporters for missing the audit the Fed vote.
He just seems to be whining more than he is talking. Do you see that, or do you just still think he's the best guy up there?
I think he's playing defense and trying to appeal to as many people as possible. I think Cruz just lost a whole lot of support by missing the audit the Fed bill, which ultimately failed. I think you're right that the vitriol between Trump and Rand is genuine. Most of the time, I don't think these guys really hate each other. I think they're all basically on the same team. You know, I'm of the school of thought that a lot of these elections, especially the national federal politics, are decided long before any votes are cast. You know, we were down in the RNC back in 2012, and you know, the ayes had it before the votes were counted. You know, and that should have shown the folks in the GOP what's really going on here. That this is a good old boys club, and they do what they want to do, and they will shut out any voices that threaten them. And the Ron Paul camp certainly threatened them. I think that Trump felt threatened by Rand Paul, and that's why he went after him so hard. I think he feels threatened by Ted Cruz, so he goes after him. Mm-hmm. You know, but he doesn't have to work very hard in order to make clowns out of these people. He's spilling all their secrets, and quite frankly, Trump, as far as I have learned, has been a lifelong Democrat, and just only basically recently he's changed his party affiliation. And I think this is all just a big ego game for him. I mean, he's an egomaniac. I look at him like a cartoon child tyrant sitting on a throne with his finger on a button, you know. And you know, he talks about building a wall to keep everybody out. Well, that wall can also keep everybody in. I mean, this is a guy that would love to have control of the greatest military apparatus in human history, and to wield his own power. I mean, he has an ego that won't stop. But then again, they all do. You know, I mean, every single person on that stage wouldn't be where they are without massive egos, and I don't really trust any of them. I mean, you know, like I said, Rand's the only one that I consider is worth voting for. But you know, I've been close to a presidential campaign long enough to see how so much of politics is literally theater. It's just theater to keep the slaves happy. And you know, I've kind of removed myself from that. I'm much more interested in waking people up to the process, waking people up to become self-sufficient, to become less dependent on government. You know, because to demand as a country, as a people, to demand that we adhere to the Constitution instead of completely disregarding it and usurping the rule of law. And that's what I try to do with my music is you know, convey the hypocrisies and the lies and the murder that goes on in our name with our tax dollars. You know, I mean, I'm a Christian, and so I can't very well put support behind a candidate or behind a representative, I should say, whose values do not line up with that of my Savior. You know, it doesn't work.
Right. Oh, I get you there. In fact, one of the things that has always separated me, if I had to make a dividing line between being a conservative and being more leaning towards a libertarian views, is their stance on social issues. For instance, libertarians think, you know, I call it that, you know, everything should be legal. You know, if a person wants drugs, they should be able to do it because it's individual choice. I don't happen to adhere to that kind of thinking. But on the other hand, I also believe that government should not be in the business of litigating morality, because these are some of the most immoral people walking the face of the earth, and to be trying to dictate to us what is moral and immoral is the epitome of hypocrisy in my mind. So I'm kind of like, I'm not into the idea of saying, well, abortion should be legalized if somebody wants it, or drugs should be legalized. It should be like, this should be something that should be handled, if it's going to be handled at any level of government, at a state level. But this is something that has to be taught through the social makeup of our society. I remember Steve Forbes years ago when he ran for president, and they were asking him about abortion. He says, you shouldn't, you know, abortion isn't something that should be legislated. It's something that is dealt with at a moral level. And there, in that regard, that's probably my biggest gripe against the church, is the church has forgotten their job when it comes to the moral standards that we should be set out there that would allow us to select and choose people of moral upstanding. I think Rand Paul is a very moral person. I don't agree with all of his political leanings, but I think he's a very moral person. And if I was president, I would want this guy as my Secretary of Treasury. I mean, he would have that job in a heartbeat. So I want to ask you a little bit more about that, but we got to take a break first. We're at the bottom of the hour here. I've got Jordan Page, recording artist, very involved in the Rand Paul campaigns. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Hey, on Moments of Madness. We're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, and as you just experienced, this is live radio. I keyed up the wrong intro there. And I'm your host, John Matthews, and you are hearing us live, coast to coast and around the world, nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated. And I like to boast about the fact that we hit almost 2 million hit listeners last year, right here, and just coming out of this little cubby hole out here in the back of my house. So I'm very proud of that. We've worked very hard to get that point. Let's hope this year that it doubles and triples, because the message needs to get out there. There aren't that many people doing talk radio today that really will take on any topic and will cover it extensively. We exhaust topics on this show. I've had people say, geez, when are you going to get off that? Well, I'm going to get off it when you understand what I'm talking about. That's the way we try to frame things around here. We have right now Jordan Page with us, recording artist and very involved with the Paul campaigns. I guess I don't know how involved he is with Rand Paul, but very involved with Ron Paul, former Congressman Ron Paul. And he's got a new single out called Arm Yourselves, a powerful anthem for the preservation of gun rights and a call to action against the violence of a militarized police state. I want to ask you about this, Jordan. This idea of, there's a lot of people out there just in some ways paranoid that Barack Obama's coming after our guns and he's going to take away our guns and everything else. And I happen to believe that Barack Obama's smart enough to know that isn't going to happen through legislation, but it seems like through these various campaigns he has recycled again yesterday at the State of the Union message. What he's trying to do is to get Americans to surrender their gun rights in the name of common sense safety laws. Do you see that kind of pattern? Because I think that's how he works.
Oh, yeah. All these guys work the same. It's got to be a war of attrition. They have to chip away at our culture, at our rights through. They do it through legislation, a piece at a time, and it may not be one law may not be a devastating blow, but it leads to another law, and then 17 laws down, you look back and you see how much we've lost. Well, consistently voting for lesser of two evils kind of idea consistently lowers the bar of acceptable levels of tyranny, and the Second Amendment is very clear. It doesn't give the president the right to legislate gun rights, gun control. I mean, the Second Amendment is extremely clear, and he's no different than anybody else. In that position, he does what he's told to do. And gun confiscation is on the agenda. Of course, it is. I mean, that's where we're heading. But something I like to stress to people is that Barack Obama or any president or any politician or any member of the enforcement class, then that would be law enforcement or military. No one can disarm you. You can only disarm yourself. And so I think there has been a generations-long campaign of emasculation in our culture. The man of the 21st century would be nearly unrecognizable to a man of the turn of the century in the 20th century. It's a sad state of affairs that we're in, where we're not willing to defend our freedoms. We're not willing to stand up for them when they are under attack. When traitors in our Congress and Senate are openly calling for sanctions on our freedoms to keep and bear arms. I mean, this is a natural law. This is a natural right that we have. It's not given to us by government. It's not given to us by a piece of paper either. It's given to us by virtue of our humanity, by being children of God. We have the right to defend ourselves walking on this earth. We have the right to defend each other. I was just down in Texas this past weekend, and I was doing a few concerts, and I was showcasing Arm Yourselves for some great groups of people. And I found out before I went down that it is illegal to feed homeless people in the city of Dallas. You can actually be arrested for this. And so I called some friends who are with don'tcomply.org and also with Come and Take It Texas. And we arranged to do a mass homeless feeding at Tent City, right there down right in the heart of downtown. Where there were literally hundreds and hundreds of homeless people. And we did it armed to the teeth. Because we have found that when protesters are armed, police have to think about what they're doing. They can't just exercise force and squash people and spray people with pepper spray. They can't just crack people's heads open and take them to jail. They actually have to think about what they have to do. It is against the law for me to feed another human being in need in the city of Dallas. And so we openly defied that law, which is an unjust law and therefore void and of no force. It's an unconstitutional law to begin with. And we fed over 400 people in defiance of tyranny, and I'm proud of that. And we as the people need to continue to do that, to stop being afraid of the state, to stop being afraid of what they're going to do. I mean, we are in control of our own destinies. We are not their slaves, so much as they would love us to believe that we are. Now, I mean, we've got generations of young people growing up in government-controlled schools who are not learning the real lessons of the Constitution. They're not learning the lessons of the Revolution. The Revolutionary War is being phased out. They don't want people being revolutionaries or being bad slaves. They want everybody going with the program. And the easiest way to deprive a people of their rights is to never teach them that they had them in the first place. And so my mission has always been, since I started this, has been education. And I do it through music, because music is this very permeating, non-threatening way of getting a message into someone's soul. It's carried there with the vehicle of music. And I've been a musician all my life, but it wasn't until 2006 that I was given a message that I could actually get behind and follow and push, and it's carried me a long way and continues to carry me. It's a message of freedom. That's essentially what it's about.
Yeah, well, I've had some instances out here in California where we have gone down. I remember going down. We demonstrated outside the IRS office one day, and I was surprised that during the process of the demonstration, we didn't see any police officers, but we had Homeland Security showed up. And I thought that was really weird. I actually went over to these guys. They were sitting there. They came over once and told some lady to get her dog off the lawn or something like that. That was like the big violation of the day. But I went over to them and tried to talk to them. They're sitting in their cars, and I just asked them, what is Homeland Security doing out here? And they wouldn't even talk. It's like, just go back and do what you're doing kind of thing. Recently, we did a demonstration down in front of City Hall down in Santa Ana, anti-abortion demonstration. And again, Homeland Security showed up. And I'm like, why are we getting Homeland Security? Why are we not, because we checked with everybody, the city, we found out what we could do, what we couldn't do. They told us we didn't need a permit. They just wanted to know where we were going to be at and everything. And we were actually, I got into quite a conversation with one of the Homeland Security people that showed up there. And he was expressing his desire to actually leave Homeland Security because of the fact that he felt that the government was becoming too oppressive. He said, I don't like coming out here and having to police an area when people are just, demonstrating. They're expressing their First Amendment rights, and I have to be watching for certain things. He wouldn't tell us what he had to be watching for. He was very secretive about what he was looking for. But he did, he was at least open enough to tell us that, you guys are being watched. And I just found that kind of disarming that they would go to that extent for such a small thing. There was probably 20 of us demonstrating. It wasn't that big of a deal. But it seems like everything now that normally would have been covered by local police in the past, now we're bringing federal authority into it. And that is what really kind of jerks my chain.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. I mean, I've run into Homeland Security people myself, and it's for starters, the entire agency itself is unconstitutional, has no business existing to begin with. They have so many nefarious activities going on behind the scenes. I'm actually good friends with a gentleman who owns a major long-term food storage chain. And he was contacted on his private line by a Homeland Security agent wanting to know how much product he could ship in 24 hours because they wanted to buy everything that he had. And they were doing this with all his competitors too. And he, this person being a patriot refused to comply with them and, told them to get bent, But they're stockpiling ammunition. They're stockpiling automatic weapons. They're stockpiling long-term food storage, survival gear. I mean, why? For what purpose? There's lots of shadowy, nefarious things going on with this institution. Yeah, and their overreach is so far beyond offensive. It's amazing to me that the people have not demanded its complete disillusion at this point.
Well, that leads me to the question I wanted to ask you here. We got to go to a quick break here. This is our quick break section right here. A couple minutes away, and I want to ask you about that. You gave me the perfect lead-in for that. We're talking with Jordan Page, American recording artist here, and we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Friends, we gather round together, holding tight our faith and guns. But in this room, I feel something greater than ourselves now. Listen, everyone, and arm yourselves for the hammer's crashing down.
And we are back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, Mad Prophet of the Airways. I'm speaking with Gordon Page. That was a little clip there from his song, Arm Yourselves. And I want to ask you, Jordan, because I was reading a book a while back written by Stephen Rasmussen, the guy that conducts the Rasmussen polls. And it was written about the Tea Party. He wrote this back, and I believe in 2011, 2012, in that area. And he was talking about the fact that the Tea Party, in his opinion, was probably one of the most influential, or was going to be one of the most influential populist movements in American politics since, perhaps, he said, since the revolution itself. And he mentioned it within the context of the fact that that's probably what we're going to need in this country is another revolution in order to be able to take our country back and get it reestablished as a republic that it's supposed to be. And you're tied in a lot, I understand, with the Oath Keepers. And I know that they're very, I'm going to say, for lack of a better phrase, in some regards, very militaristic in their framework in terms of how they think. It's like, we're going to do what we have to do. We've had people on the show like Donald Huber very active in the militias throughout the country, who tells me that there's upwards of 10 million militia people sitting around, just kind of waiting for something to happen. And I wanted to just ask, you hang around with some of these people. Do you get the feeling that we may be on the cusp of some kind of major confrontation between government and the citizens that they govern?
Well, I think it's happening right now up in Oregon. If you've been following that situation with Ammon Bundy and the and the militia that went up there to support the Hammond family and the completely, heinous actions of the Bureau of Land Management, another unconstitutional organization. And it's all starting to unfold. And you have lots of FBI agents that are posing as they're basically agent provocateurs posing as militia and trying to get the situation to become violent in order to have an excuse to use violence and force to put it down, and then use that as an excuse for furthering their anti-freedom agenda. It's been coming for a long time. Everybody knows it. Obama is the greatest gun salesman that's ever lived, and people are getting ready. There's an arms race going on right now, John. It's been going on for years. The people are stockpiling weapons, and so is the state. And why is this happening? It's coming to a head. It's not a head that I want it to come to. I'm the father of 6 small children. I have no interest in having everything completely fall apart. That is not what my goal is. Right. And Oath Keepers as an organization it's an organization whose central and sole mission is to restore the Constitution of the United States. That's what their mission is. And if that means defying unconstitutional federal mandates, unconstitutional federal agencies, then that's what it means. These are veterans. These are hardcore people who took an oath, and they take that oath seriously. It's not a joke to them. It's not just something that they can let go of once they've left the service. They have sworn an oath for life. It's their very honor is at stake. And that's why they stand up for people who are being oppressed by the state and who are being taken advantage of and brutalized. So I've aligned myself with Oath Keepers 100%. I've been good friends with Stuart Rhodes, its president, since 2009, and I've done many concerts for them. And I'm very close to the national leadership. And they've adopted my song "Arm Yourselves" that you just played a little bit of it. They've adopted that as their national theme song, which was quite an honor. And the organization actually helped me to raise the money to record it. We did a crowdfunding campaign and promoted it through their membership, and the members themselves donated enough money for me to get it recorded and put it out there. So Oath Keepers is doing a lot of good in this country, and they're trying to prevent disasters from happening. They're trying to prevent our troops from firing on American citizens and going around confiscating weapons like they did in Katrina, rounding people up, unlawfully rounding people up like they did at Katrina and so many other instances. So Oath Keepers is doing a lot of good, and I'm ridiculously happy to be associated with them.
Yeah, I know. Every time I go to a gun show, they're the first booth I look for.
Yeah,
I go down there and just sit around and talk with the people, and kind of try to get a feel what's going on. The last time I encountered them was when the Bundy Ranch thing was going on, and
sure.
I was kind of interested. We had some people that actually went down there just to see what was going on, and they were funneling reports back to me. This is what's coming down. The implication that I was getting from the people that were there is that the government was trying to engineer some type of confrontation that would allow them to step in and do something violently. To have, and as somebody who's served in the military during wartime, the last thing in the world I want to do is be part of another war. But I'm almost in my mind, back of my mind, it's like, I don't know at this point if we're going to be able to avoid some type of confrontation like this. And it scares the hell out of me to think that it's coming to that,
Well, it should, because it's in this day and age, in the 21st century, it's going to be unlike anything anyone's ever seen. Yeah. And I certainly don't want it to come to that, but I'm prepared that if it does. I am actively every day, John. Every day I am trying to help people understand who the real enemy is. It's not left and right or black and white. It's the state and the people. There are two groups here. You have the power structure and their enforcement, and you have the public. And the public has completely forgotten itself. It has completely forgotten its own power, its own mission. its own freedom. It has no stake in the maintenance of its own freedom. They've forgotten the words of the founders. I know where you stand on that stuff, and that's where I'm at too. I mean, we need to look no further than Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and our founders for clues on what was going to happen if we didn't stand up and maintain eternal vigilance. And we have been asleep at the wheel for generations.
Right.
And that is how we've gotten here. And we're not going to get out of it, overnight. It's going to take generations to turn it back. But it has to start somewhere. I don't care if you and I agree on everything, or if somebody else agrees with me on everything. I could care less. All I'm trying to do is get people to care about something,
right,
to care about their own freedom, and to start pushing our culture in the opposite direction of the way that it's going. Because if we continue down this dark road, there's lots of recent examples that have gone down the dark road that we're going down, and we've seen what happened. 270 million people were murdered by their governments worldwide in the 20th century. Everybody's up in arms about how many people that Islam has killed over 1,400 years. It's like 250 million people. In the 20th century, the state, the all-encompassing universal state apparatus, killed 270 million people immediately following gun confiscation. So yeah, gun confiscation is certainly a major part of this of the agenda of the globalist elite scumbags. I mean, that's what they're after, because they cannot control us if we are armed. It's just as simple as that. And they will use liberalism, they will use liberal logic, or that's a contradiction in terms, to try to get people to turn their arms in for some moral application. As though like they're going to cure a headache by cutting off the head. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
All it does is renders us helpless to tyrannical regimes.
We have just a couple minutes left here, and I want to make sure I give you time to plug your albums and songs. I want to just real quick here, and if you can give it to me in 30 seconds or less. My theory is that once Barack Obama leaves the White House next year, his next step is to run the UN.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, he's been their lapdog since he got into office. And serving on the different committees that he's been on in the UN is a direct violation of his oath of office. So, but he doesn't care. Who cares? No one's going to call him out on it.
We just did a lengthy profile yesterday on Wade Rathke, the former head of Acorn. He's got an Acorn International now, and I can see Obama just fitting right in there. We've been speaking with Jordan. Jordan Page. Excuse me, I got something stuck in my throat there. And I want to give you a moment here, Jordan, to plug your music. How can people find it?
Well, first and foremost, jordanpagemusic.com is my main website. People can buy my music there. They can listen to it for free there. They can read my lyrics and see where I'll be playing next. There's lots of information on there. And there's a great education page on my website where people can start to get their minds open and freed. I'm also on YouTube at Jordan Page Music. You can follow me on Twitter at Jordan Page Music. Really just Google me. I got the new song Arm Yourselves, and I also released a B-side with it called Act 3, which is an instrumental battle scene that follows the main track. And they're both for sale on iTunes, Google Play Store, Amazon, and CD Baby, and really anywhere that music can be downloaded legally. Through Oath Keepers, we'll be doing a new music video this year for that song, and I've got lots of really fun stuff coming up. But if everybody just goes to my website and checks out jordanpagemusic.com and download the song and spread it around.
All right. I appreciate it so much. I got to have you back here. We just touched the surface. I really like where you're at, and there's some things I think we could really have some in-depth conversations about. But thanks so much for taking the time to come on.
Oh, it was a pleasure, John. Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to do it again.
Okay, God bless. Okay, guys, we're at the top of the hour here. It's time for the Edwards Notebook. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Does President Obama really believe that violence would be reduced by restricting our right to own and bear arms? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, during President Obama's recent Crocodile Tears press conference, where he announced his executive action to further restrict gun sales and ownership, he feigned concern about the victims of Sandy Hook, or so it seems. The president expressed his concern about gun violence in America. To really get his point across, he even misled the American people by saying that the United States was the only advanced nation to suffer horrific gun-violent events. I guess he forgot about the recent terrorist attack in Paris, where numerous unarmed citizens were gunned down by worshippers of Allah. Unfortunately, if every gun were taken from law-abiding sovereign citizens, violence would not cease. In fact, it would dramatically increase. First of all, because more unarmed Americans would mean more potential victims for terrorists and other thugs who prey on those they perceive to pose the least resistance. Mr. President, it will take a change of heart amongst those seeking to kill, steal, and destroy to reduce violence, not taking away our God-given right of self-protection. I'm Ron Edwards.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
The time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet, weighing against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Hey, how we doing? We're back. You are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Hour 2, coming to you live, coast to coast and around the world, globally syndicated, nationally acclaimed, the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, man, prophet of the airways, and my co-host, Joe Hakos, is not here today. He is at a Donald Trump rally right now, and he's going to be giving us a report. We were going to try to set him up to call in from the rally itself, and we've tried that in the past. The problem that we often have is the timing of things. It's 4 o'clock here, it's 6 o'clock there. Joe is still in transit. He said it's going to be about a 2.5, 3 hour drive from where he lives out there in the Panhandle. He's got to drive down to Pensacola, so he should get there just about 7 o'clock. Now you're talking about getting in, the noise and everything else. So we kind of like, no, you know what? Just enjoy yourself. Don't feel pressured. And we'll just get a report on it tomorrow. So Joe's out there at the Donald Trump rally in Pensacola, which is supposed to start in about an hour, hour and a half. So I'm flying solo tonight. I hope you enjoyed, if you listened to our first hour, our interview with Jordan Page, American recording artist. He's got actually quite a resume. And I listened to his music before he came on the show. I spent a good part of today just looking his stuff up and listening to it, and very articulate man. One of the calmer libertarians that I've dealt with in my time, the 8 years that I've been on the radio. I've run into some real Looney Tunes, but then I've run into Looney Tunes at every level. I've run into Looney Tune conservatives. I've run into, of course, every liberal is a Looney Tune, so that goes without saying. But, to be able to have an articulate, civil conversation with somebody and be able to talk about your differences and the things that you agree on. And a very pleasant conversation. I enjoyed it immensely. We are going to definitely have Jordan back on the show. And I was just talking to him here during the break, trying to make our little connections here on what's going on here. If he's supposed to be coming out here, or saying he's planning on coming out here to California and tour this year. So I'm definitely going to be part of that if he comes out here, and we'll let you know about that. Just a real nice gentleman, and very articulate in his views and why he believes what he believes. Now, having said that, let's get into another form of articulation, the master at articulating lies. And that would be none other than our current president, soon-to-be ex-president, Barack Obama. And as I stated at the very beginning of the show, I was conflicted last night as to whether or not I really even wanted to bother listening to the State of the Union message. I got other things I could be doing after I get off the show here. I spent an hour in post getting everything ready to go out to the various podcast sites that we send our archives to. And I thought, after that, I'm one of these people, after I get off the air and everything, I want to calm down. I want to just kind of wind it down a little bit and do what I like to do, and that is just spend some time with my wife watching TV before I call it a night. And but I forced myself to do it because I knew in the back of my mind, I just knew, something told me in the back of my mind, don't worry about listening to what this guy's saying, but watch what's going on. And so that instinct kicked in. I said, I want to see what the atmosphere is like. I want to see how the room looks. Let's get a take on how the people sitting in that room listening to this man recite from his teleprompter for the last time in a gathering of this sort, how is it going to look? What's it going to look like? Are we going to see Justice Ginsburg nodding off again? Are we going to see Nancy Pelosi jumping up and down like she's doing exercise and clapping radically and emphatically? Are we going to watch Joe Biden shivering with thrills going down his leg every time Obama talks about what a great guy he is? I wanted to get a take on it. I especially wanted to see what Paul Ryan was going to look like. We're so used to seeing that sour face of John Boehner. So what Paul Ryan? What's he going to look like? And so I did. I forced myself, and I didn't really listen to the message itself. I really didn't. I really kind of centered in and zoomed in on how everybody else in the room was. And the camera did a very good job of panning around the room. And lo and behold, and I want to preface these remarks by saying, of course, everybody knows, if you listen to the show for any length of time, I am a very biased individual. This is not an objective talk show. This isn't something that I come in and want to necessarily hear other people's views for the purpose of being persuaded to believe those views. I believe that people can have other views. I believe they can be conflicting to mine. And I think they have the right to express those views, and so I try to give people that type of airtime when it fits, when it's a good thing to do. It's not always a good thing to do, but I don't mind having people on here that I disagree with. My adage or my favorite cliche is, you have the right to be wrong. That's what makes America great. You have the right to be wrong. And to coin John Kerry's phrase when he was talking over in Germany, you have the right to be stupid. So, those things, that's what makes America great. Is we can be right, we can be wrong, we can be stupid, we can be smart. But collectively, we're still supposed to be a nation. And that is what is being endangered right now by this leftist narrative that says, basically, if you don't agree with us, not only are you stupid, not only are you wrong, but you need to somehow be silenced or even eliminated. Because that doesn't work towards the collective ideal of utopia. And so that's within that framework of thinking, I'm sitting here and watching the camera pan around the room at different times during the speech, and the word that kept coming up in my mind was burnout. I'm looking at a room full of people that are burned out. And what are they burned out for? Well, they're either burned out of one of two things. Those on the left who have had to support Barack Obama for fear of reprisal, knowing that right now, especially in the Senate, many of them, their jobs are up for grabs. Burned out on the right, those who are tired of being ostracized and being told to follow the line, to line up behind the policies or the beliefs of their leadership, who've just done nothing but cave to Barack Obama. So I saw that, and I want to expound on that when I get back. We got to go to another break. This is our short segment, so we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at Conservative Syndicate. Don't go.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And we're back. And you're listening to none other than the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who's out today attending a Donald Trump rally out there in Pensacola, Florida. He'll be back with us tomorrow, give us a rundown and report as to what took place at that rally. Now, back to the State of the Union message here. And along with, as I was saying here before the break, panning around the room, watching the camera pan around the room to the different faces that are out there. The first thing I noticed, my God, how do we fit? I can't remember the last time I saw such a large room full of old people. I mean, old-looking people and somber-looking people. Old, somber-looking people, almost across the board. Very few people smiling. I think every once in a while we saw Bernie Sanders probably smiled more than most of them. I saw him smile several times. But the rest of them, it was like a major chore for them to be there. That's what it seemed like. It's like you almost got the feeling, maybe my bias was reading more into it than was actually there. But it just seemed like nobody really wanted to be there, with maybe the exception of Barack Obama. And even Michelle, maybe she wanted to be there. She seemed to be uncharacteristically excited about what was going on. Maybe the fact that she's going, this is the last one of these things I could do. All this over a damn flag kind of mentality. And this is the last one I have to be at, that kind of thing. But it just seemed like the entire room there was like no energy at all. And everybody was somber. What really stuck out to me, the camera kept panning across the 5 or 6 military leaders that were there, generals or whatever they were, sitting there, and all 6 of them just sour-faced, somber-looking, very little reaction to anything that was being said up there at the podium. And I think even at one time there was looks of dismay or looks of disgust when Barack Obama started talking about the terrorists and his take on ISIS and everything else. The only time I saw everybody in the room give Obama any type of standing ovation was when he did mention the contributions of the military, and everybody stood up and applauded. But the rest of it was, the practiced art of, your guy is talking and you want to stand up and clap for him. But even that, as the people were standing up and clapping and the camera's panning, very little emotion registered on the faces of anybody that was listening. So I just, in the back of my mind, I kept hearing this word, boy, these people sure look burned out. It's kind of like, what it must be like to get up and have to go to work in a place like this, where it's the last thing in the world you really want to do. You know, you can't go home and face your constituents because you're BSing them as you're sitting in Washington, and you got to go back and face them. You don't want to do that. And then when you're in Washington, you've got to basically toe the line of whatever leadership is telling you what to do. And then you've got to show up and listen to this egotist get up there and tell you about everything that has jeopardized your position with your constituents is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so it just seemed like this aura of a bunch of people, old, somber, and burned out. And Paul Ryan's facial expressions or lack of facial expressions to me spoke volumes. There were times where you could almost see him smirking with his eyes. And I wonder how that's going to all play out. You know, Paul Ryan seems a little bit more articulate when it comes to expressing the true Republican idealism or the ideology of smaller government and everything. We'll see how it all plays out as he begins to, all the excuses are removed now. Boehner's gone. You can't lay anything on him from this point on. So let's see what's going on. But again, Mitch McConnell still playing we can't really do anything because we don't have the White House kind of thing. So we'll see how that plays out. But back to the message itself. In addition to this somber, dead, burnt out aura that I sensed was taking place at the moment Obama was up there talking, I felt that perhaps Barack Obama was trying to even convince himself that he was a successful president. Now, I don't in any stretch of the imagination disbelieve the thought that as a community organizer, Obama knows he's done a good job. I think, he probably high-fives himself in the mirror as far as his agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America. He's been very effective in doing that. And so as a community organizer, I'm sure he's ecstatic, almost orgasmic, as to what he's been able to pull off in the time that he's been in Washington. But as a president, as trying to depict that in a presidential way, in a presidential manner, as if it really had something to do with running government, he just seemed to be trying to convince himself at times that what he was saying was valid and what he was saying was good. And the other side of it was the tone he was taking. Instead of blaming the Republicans or blaming George Bush, he seemed to have this tone that the reason he wasn't able to do more was because the American people have adapted to this cynical view on politics. It's almost like he was scolding us. Why are you so cynical about everything that I've been doing? Why do you think that this is not necessarily good? Certainly somebody at this point in time has informed him that the majority of polls in the country do not like what he's done. Now, it can be played, it can be spun, and it can be skewed in a lot of ways to reflect what they want it to reflect. We talked last week about these hidden polls. The NBC Wall Street Journal poll that showed that 73% of Americans don't like the direction Barack Obama has taken the country. And instead, they would emphasize things like 46% of the people think that Donald Trump is wrong for wanting to ban Muslims from coming into the country. So, they pick and choose what they put out there. But with a job approval rating of between 40 and 42%, certainly somebody has told Obama, hey, the emperor has no clothes. And so Obama comes out here as a State of the Union message trying to convince everybody that the 7.5 years that he's been doing all this stuff, that it's been great for America. That America not only was great, but is greater than it has ever been because of everything that he's done. But it just seemed like at times, he was pausing. He was kind of like scoping the room out. Why am I not getting the reaction I should be getting? The applause was minimal. There was no yelling or anything else. It was polite applause. Yeah, people stood up. But there just didn't seem to be any excitement about anything that was going on. Now, I'm sure after the thing was over, his staff and his people and those people who, live off the government teat, we're patting him on the back, telling him what a great guy he is and what a great job. But probably the only guy that would really be able to do that and really convey a true belief in it would probably be Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't care about anything. I think it's pretty obvious. He really doesn't give a horse's patoot about what goes on one way or the other. But the rest of them, you got to wonder what they were talking about when they went back to the office. Of course, the Republicans, they're probably not talking at all because it's just like, whatever. But the Democrats, some of these people that are up, for re-election coming this cycle, you got to wonder if they weren't going back, at least amongst themselves or at least at home with mom or dad, My God, what did we get ourselves into? What happened here? What happened? I want to spend a few moments talking about what he said, but not a whole lot of time on that because it's irrelevant, really, at this point. What Barack Obama said last night was his perspective as to what he has done, and that's all it is. There's nothing really out there outside of the talking heads that really confirms that he did a great job the time that he's been president. We all know that's not true anyways. So I'm looking at an article here by Robert Mary, who's a contributing editor of the National Interest. And he's an author of books on American history and foreign policy. He wrote an article for the National Interest entitled Obama's Lecture Against Americans' Concerns. His opening paragraph of this is telling. He says, there's an old saying that necessity is the mother of invention. And President Obama's State of the Union address before Congress seemed to be an inventive way of dealing with a difficult political necessity, that of hailing the nation he leads in upbeat language at a time when he knows the American people are anything but upbeat. So I read this article this morning, and it confirmed in my mind what I was thinking last night, what I just conveyed to you, that he was standing in front of a room of people, maybe not governing as representatives of the people that have elected them, but certainly conveying the representative thought of American people, and that is nobody's really happy with the way things are going. And he had to get up there and try to convince everybody that everything he's done has made us stronger, better, more compassionate, more responsive, more loving, and that the world sees us different, sees us in a better light. There's nothing farther from the truth. But he just continued to try to convey that message. So Mary goes on to write here. He says, it's 7 years later, it says here, the conclusion is inescapable that Obama, early in his presidency, saw himself 7 years later standing before Congress and the American people, issuing a triumphant rendition of his historic tenure and the new direction that he had given his country. Perhaps in this fantasy of future glory, he saw himself praising his fellow Americans for embracing the change he set before them. But now it's 7 years later, and he can't do that. There isn't even any point in checking off any laundry list of initiatives he considers important for the country. So he gave us a lecture instead, Mr. Mary writes. Given the rhetorical necessity he faced, his lecture was rather brilliant in places. It contained impressive elements of effective oratory, optimism, idealism, compassion, occasional eloquence, with sly digs at the opposition wrapped in a kind of bonhomie. But ultimately, he blamed the American people for whatever concerns and fears they're feeling. He came out and he said, looking into the camera at the folks at home, he says, it depends on you. The grand vision he outlined will only happen when the American people demand it. By way of bringing the point home, he added that our form of government is hard, and it's a lot easier to be cynical. So he basically dressed down the American people as to what he was probably feeling like I was feeling, the deadness, the monotony, the mundane atmosphere of a political world influenced by somebody like Barack Obama. And he's not happy with it. People have not embraced his hope and change. They are not happy with his agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America. And he'll probably spend the rest of his time telling us why we are the ones to blame. We, the American people, are the ones to blame for Barack Obama's failures. It's time for Moments of Madness. We're at the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. Today on Moments of Madness. An article posted at Bloomberg by Jonathan Bernstein entitled "The Trump Effect Begins to Hit Congress" illustrates very well that what is at stake in the upcoming 2016 general election is not about the GOP's concern about who they will oppose in the Oval Office, but whether or not they have a majority that allows them to protect their individual posts. Bernstein very accurately points out that whether or not Trump magically transforms into the hybrid conservative moderate formerly known as a rhino, the GOP still stands to lose in those demographics they are working so hard to win over through their continual compromise with Obama's agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America due to Trump's unwillingness to tone his rhetoric and instead fall in line behind the bonerized yes men that rule today's establishment. But that's not all. While the GOP tries their best to convey, all they need to return America to the GOP platform they themselves have dismantled plank by plank is control of the executive branch. It is quite obvious, even if a real conservative like Ted Cruz, himself a member of their most sought-after demographic, should be the last candidate standing, they fear losing the stability that defines the establishment they have worked decades to create in the House and Senate. Here's the madness. The bottom line is, it is not the future of America that is at stake. It's their jobs. The likes of Donald Trump or Ted Cruz in the White House threaten those jobs. Winning to today's GOP elite is more about the individual security that comes from holding a position that equates intelligence and skill with esteem and pay while exhibiting no qualifications for the job whatsoever. We know this because the current list of establishment elites seeking the White House remain at the bottom of the pond with popularity numbers between 0 and 3%. Yet they are still the ones the media flock to and the left exhorts when upper-tier candidates like Trump or Cruz comment on the weather in hope of rising from the bottom to the top of the cesspool they thrive in. When the best you can do is whine about today's political landscape while at the same time lamenting that which once was, who cares what John Kasich thinks about legislative reform? When the best you can refer to is a past that fades like a Clinton scandal, who cares if Jeb Bush tells you he can fix what he and his family helped break? When you do not even have a number that registers on the scale, who cares what Lindsey Graham believes is good foreign policy? In fact, who cares what Graham thinks about anything except maybe his choice of wine? It remains to be seen whether or not the GOP knocks over the chessboard by forcing a brokered convention next year in hope of getting their choice on the ballot, because they know they are about to lose to the new kid in the class. But one thing is certain. Regardless of how the rules are changed, everyone knows who the brats are, and everyone knows class is about to be dismissed. Maybe, just maybe then, these elites can take the position they are most qualified for, janitor sweeping the floors of the halls of Congress. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
We're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. If you're just tuning in, you can catch us at our website. Also, if you want to get a copy of the archive of this show, you want to listen to it again. If you missed our first hour, we had a great interview with Jordan Page, American recording artist, and just a real super guy. You can go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and pick up this show. Listen to it again. You can download it. You can do whatever you want with it. That's why it's there. We make it free. We make it downloadable. We don't require anything. Just listen and share it. I was talking before the break here about Barack Obama's State of the Union message and just the overall feeling of somber sadness, weariness, whatever it is. I can't quite put the words together to describe what I saw visually, other than the word burnout. It just seems like the room was filled with a bunch of people that were just burned out with what's been going on, and perhaps that is why nothing is really getting done. The opposition, the attacks, the smears, the backdoor dealing, all these things that go on in politics and have magnified 10 times over since Barack Obama stepped into the White House, just maybe has just taken a toll on people. And some of these older people are getting ready to leave. People like Harry Reid, others like this, are just saying, enough is enough. And let's move on. On the other side, you got people like Nancy Pelosi, who they'll probably have to carry out in a coffin or a body bag. Because she's in her element. But I've been talking about this article written by Robert Mary for the National Interest, and he is a contributor at the National Interest and an author of American history books and foreign policy. And I think to give justice to what I've been saying and trying to convey in the conversation that we've been having about the State of the Union, I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to read you his article because it is so accurate and articulate as to what I'm trying to express. It's just better to, if we can just legally plagiarize his article here, give him credit for writing it. Robert W. Mary, contributing editor at the National Interest. It starts out by saying this: there's an old saying that necessity is the mother of invention, and President Obama's State of the Union address before Congress seemed to be an inventive way of dealing with a difficult political necessity, that of hailing the nation he leads in upbeat language at a time when he knows the American people are anything but upbeat. This was not the usual State of the Union speech. Certainly it lacked as the president himself noted, the normal laundry list of policy initiatives he might want to press upon Congress and the people. Everyone knows he lacks the political power to get anything through Congress. But more significantly, the speech lacked two key elements almost always seen in such addresses. First, a narrative of how his policies have brought America to its current state. And second, an effort to explain and justify those policies in some detail and with political confidence. See, this is what I was saying. I wasn't seeing confidence as a president. There was confidence that was being displayed or was on display was that of a community organizer, which basically has the mindset of, I don't give a damn what you think. This is what we want to get done. That he definitely had that arrogant tone to him. But he didn't have the political confidence of a leader of the most powerful nation on earth, as he referred to us. True, Mr. Mary goes on to say, true, the president noted what he considered his greatest achievements, such as the Affordable Care Act, the drop in unemployment, and the job creation numbers, all skewed, by the way. But he didn't exploit this final opportunity of his presidency to elucidate his national legacy with a coherent storyline, laying out how his policies and initiatives and rhetorical force had created the nation we now live in. Well, why would he want credit for that? He didn't do it. He didn't accomplish what he really set out to do. It isn't that he hasn't changed the dynamics of politics. It isn't that he has controlled the narrative. It's that he has not captured the enthusiasm of the American people to go along with it. There's the failure. As a community organizer, the nuts and bolts of getting things done, he's been very good at. In terms of getting the people to grab and embrace what he's doing, he's been a complete failure, other than those true believers who would follow him anyway, no matter what he did. So Mr. Mary goes on to say, he couldn't do that, meaning he could not lay out this storyline of how his policies and initiatives and rhetorical force have created the nation we now live in. He couldn't do that because most Americans don't like the nation they're living in. So he unloaded upon his constituency a lecture on why they're wrong in feeling ennui at the State of the Union. So he must have been feeling the same thing, why they should find felicity in his assurances that the American economy is unsurpassed in the world, that the U.S. military remains the greatest anywhere. All they need to do, he said, is embrace the change that has been descending upon us. The country has been through such profound change before, and each time there were those who told us to fear the future. But each time we overcame those fears and refused, as Lincoln admonished, to adhere to the dogma of the quiet past. In other words, he wants the American people to embrace the change he has been seeking to bring to the country since his inauguration. For Obama, this means European-style democratic socialism. You want to know why Bernie Sanders is so popular? There you go. It means greater redistributionist economic policies than the United States has embraced since the Great Society. It means ever-grading regulatory control over the economy and other aspects of life. It means amnesty for illegal immigrants. It's difficult to avoid the impression that Obama entered office with grand plans to reshape the American future in ways reminiscent of Franklin Roosevelt or Lyndon Johnson. He wanted to resume the national push, interrupted by Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, toward greater governmental dominance over major aspects of American life. His cap-and-trade energy initiative and his Affordable Care Act were the centerpieces of this exalted project. He failed. Cap-and-trade died in Congress, and the Affordable Care Act has generated ongoing controversy and anger throughout the country. Contrary to Democratic expectations that once passed, it would be embraced and heralded, as were FDR's and LBJ's bold initiatives. The American people shut him down by giving Congress to the opposition, and he has been reduced since then to operating around the margins with executive orders that sometimes raise questions of constitutional propriety. The conclusion is inescapable that Obama, early in his presidency, saw himself 7 years later standing before Congress and the American people, issuing a triumphant rendition of his historic tenure and the new direction he had given his country. Perhaps in this fantasy of future glory, he saw himself praising his fellow Americans for embracing the change he set before them. But now it's 7 years later, and he can't do that. There isn't even any point in checking off any laundry list of initiatives he considers important for the country. So he gave us a lecture instead. Given the rhetorical necessity he faced, his lecture was rather brilliant in places. It contained impressive elements of effective oratory, optimism, idealism, compassion, occasional eloquence, with sly digs at the opposition wrapped in a kind of bonhomie. But ultimately, he blamed the American people for whatever concerns and fears they're feeling. A president can only do so much, he said, without the people pulling their weight. Looking into the camera, he told the folks at home, he said, it depends on you. The grand vision he outlined will only happen when the American people demand it. By way of bringing the point home, he added that our form of government is hard. It's a lot easier to be cynical. With his optimism and lyrical portrayal of American glory, he avoided the Malay trap that ensnared Jimmy Carter during his presidency back in the 1970s. But he seemed to be saying the American people hadn't quite lived up to his expectation. The reverse is also true. Commentator Charles Krauthammer said on Fox that Obama seemed to be trying to change the ideological direction of the country like Reagan. He might have added Franklin Roosevelt as well, and the combination of William McKinley and Theodore Roosevelt. But those men changed the national vector, not just with rhetoric or ideological expressions. They created new political coalitions that brought new energy to their party and hence their governance. That's what Obama failed to do, at a time when the country needed it with considerable urgency. That's why he didn't have a great story to tell the American people, and that's why he defaulted to a presidential lecture. We'll be back to comment on that. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Hey, we're back. You are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow we will have Russ Neal, board member on the Center for Bioethical Reform, and I asked Russ to come on because this Sunday is the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday, first instituted during the Reagan administration. Shortly after, well, it was actually behind that. It was set up to counter the legalization of abortion, where once a year, Christians around the nation would gather in their congregations and talk about or deal with the aspects of abortion, legalized abortion, or as I like to refer to it, legislated murder. We're allowed to kill the unborn under the guise of women's health. That's the new catchphrase on abortion. It's women's health. And it started out as birth control, and then it was the idea that abortion was supposed to be to protect a woman's health if it endangered her life. And then that got redefined and skewed to mean anything that a doctor wanted to diagnose as endangering a woman's life, like responsibility. Yeah, responsibility would endanger her mental what's the word I'm thinking of? Her mental state. So, yeah, let's give him an abortion. Let's kill that child. Now, we were talking about the State of the Union, and I just got done reading, I think, quite an articulate article by Robert Mary on the failure of Barack Obama to do one thing during his term that really was essential to his establishing his legacy. Now, I've been talking about for a while, and I firmly believe that once Barack Obama leaves the White House, that his next step will be to prepare for world dominance by seeking a position, preferably the head of the UN. And we talked yesterday with Mike Volpe about his relationship or the relationship of community organizers of the likes of George Soros and Wade Rathke and people like this, and how they're working now at an international level, shaking down third world banana republics and stuff like that. So don't be surprised. Barack Obama's job or his agenda is far from over even after he's out of the White House. And but what Barack Obama has failed to do, now we know that he succeeded in changing a lot of things, clogging up the political mechanism, and through executive orders and everything, because he hasn't really been able to get the carte blanche approval of everything he's done by his opponents. But one thing he has failed at doing tremendously is getting the majority of the American people to embrace and praise everything that he's done. The polls are showing his job approval rating at 42%, 40 to 42%, depending on where you go. And that's very low. That's about what George W. Bush was at when he left office. So that's indicative of the public sentiment towards what Barack Obama has done. And we've talked about the hidden polls out there that are showing as high as 73 to 75% of the people in the country do not like the direction that Barack Obama has taken us. The only ones that are out there saying it's great are, of course, the true believers. Obama has not been able to unify the country around his hope and change, fundamental transformation agenda of the United States of America. Now, he's forced a lot of things on us, and we'll see what can be undone after this 2016 election cycle is over. We'll see what can be done during the year with Paul Ryan telling us that he's not John Boehner. We'll see. But the point being is that Barack Obama's legacy is endangered because he never really got public approval at the percentage or the rate or the margin that he needs to cement his legacy as the greatest thing since Jesus Christ. So that remains to be seen how this is all going to play out. But I do believe it has to be for the Democrat side anyway, it has to be the centerpiece or the foundation of their campaign. They're stuck with Barack Obama, whether they like it or not. And as I said, the visual aspects of what I saw last night's State of the Union, they're not really happy with what's happened here, what has transpired in the 7+ years that Barack Obama has been in office. Many of these people are up for re-election right now, and they're not happy. They're not happy what they have to go back and face their constituents with. Now, the last thing I want to just talk about real quick here is he made 3 big statements about the economy last night, and I just want to really address them real quick here. It doesn't take a whole lot of time because we know it was all BS anyway. He said in his speech last night, in his address last night, that anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction. See, Barack Obama believes that he has created the economy that America needs to be ready for the 21st century. A highly regulated and restricted economy through regulations and taxation. He was touting all these numbers about 14 million new jobs, an unemployment rate cut in half, 900,000 new manufacturing jobs, and the best record for the auto industry, all while cutting deficits by almost 3/4. That's his claim. He did all this work. But the point is, once again, he just took all these statistics, these doctored statistics that the White House and the left has been touting now for 7+ years. The 14 million new jobs are more like 9 million, they say, when you measure it from the start of Obama's White House tenure. Now, I wouldn't even say 9 million. I'd be lucky, you'd be lucky to 2 million, maybe, because the private sector will figure out how to do things in spite of what government tries to do to stop them. A lot of those were just jobs coming back to the market. But that doesn't, and a lot of them were underemployment. Part-time jobs are being counted as job creation. Public sector jobs are being counted as job creation. The restoration of jobs in companies that downsized are being counted as job creation. The 900,000 manufacturing jobs, not likely. The economy has actually lost 230,000 manufacturing jobs since he took office. And the deficits are irrelevant whether they cut deficits or not, because deficits are always projected on future spending, can change with any Congress. So all that stuff is irrelevant. So he's out there touting how good what he did for the economy. And yet, you notice most of his speeches, he's always coming back and saying things like, but I know people aren't feeling it yet. I know people aren't sensing it. See, he's never been able to get people to grab onto the narrative that what he has said he's done, he has actually done. He went on and talked about the welfare. Food stamp recipients didn't cause the financial crisis. It was the recklessness on Wall Street. It wasn't the recklessness on Wall Street. It was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, government agencies that guaranteed subprime loans, created by none other than Jimmy Carter and extended through Bill Clinton, not stopped by anybody else. Ronald Reagan didn't stop it. George Bush didn't stop it. And so it finally came to that place where it exploded. And everybody knew it was going to explode. Everybody knew it was going to explode. And that is what created the financial meltdown. That was something that was initiated by the Democrats, not stopped by the Republicans, and got to the place where it had to implode. And that's why we now have more people on food stamps and welfare than we've ever had in this country before. It wasn't the recklessness of Wall Street. Not at all. It was the expansion of government and the promises made by a government on loans and stuff that they could not cover. Gas under $2. He wanted to claim that the price of gas is down because of his energy independence program, that's renewable energy, hamster-driven cars, things like that. And it's all about destroying the coal industry. He even blamed the coal industry for not adapting, and that's why they're having such a hard problem. Not all the regulations and rules and everything else that he put out there to kill the industry. And we'll talk more about that maybe tomorrow or maybe next week. I'm not sure when we're going to get to it. But right now, we're out of time, and I wanted to just thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope you got something out of that interview that we had with Jordan Page the first hour. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to listen to that again myself. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Joe Hickles will be back with us tomorrow from his Donald Trump rally that he's attending today. Russ Neal from the Center for Bioethical Reform will be joining us as we discuss the sanctity of human life Sunday coming up this week. God bless you all. We love you. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times.
That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.